3 years ago, on a cold winter night, Sarah sat on a park bench, clutching a thin blanket around her shoulders. She was a veteran, once strong and full of purpose, but life had taken a cruel turn. Homeless, hungry, and alone, she had lost hope until a man stopped in front of her. That man was Donald Trump. She never expected him to notice her, let alone change her life. But that night, he did something that set her on a new path. Whether it was fate or just a moment of unexpected kindness, what happened that evening turned everything around for Sarah. She went from struggling to survive on the streets to rebuilding her life in ways she never imagined. Now, 3 years later, something incredible is about to happen. Sarah and Trump are about to meet again. But this time, she's not the same woman he once helped. And as they stand face to face, emotions run high. Will he remember her? What will he say? And more importantly, how will this unexpected reunion unfold? Stay with us, because this is a story you don't want to miss. What started as a moment of compassion has led to something even bigger. And as this meeting takes an unexpected turn, one thing is certain: Sarah's journey is far from over. As Sarah stands just a few feet away from Trump, her heart pounds. She remembers every detail of that night, how she had been too ashamed to even look up when he spoke to her. She had been ignored by so many people before, but he had stopped, listened, and done something no one else had. Back then, she had no idea who she could trust. Life on the streets had hardened her, made her suspicious of kindness. But when he offered help, it wasn't just empty words. That night led to a phone call, a connection with the right people, and a second chance. He didn't just give her a handout, he gave her hope, and that changed everything. Now, standing in his crowded room, she wonders if he remembers. For him, it might have been just one act of kindness among many, but for her, it was life-changing. She takes a deep breath, trying to steady herself. Should she remind him? Would he even believe her story? The people around are watching, sensing something important is happening. Cameras flash, whispers spread, and the tension grows. Sarah wants to speak, but the words catch in her throat. Then, Trump turns fully toward her, his expression shifting as he looks into her eyes. Something flickers across his face, recognition, surprise. But before she can say a word, he does something that no one in the room expects. And in that moment, everything changes again. Trump studies Sarah's face, his eyes narrowing slightly as if searching his memory. The room feels like it has gone completely silent, all eyes locked on the moment unfolding. Then, after what feels like forever, he speaks. "I know you," he says, his voice steady but curious. "I've met you before." Sarah exhales sharply, her chest tightening. He does remember. But before she can confirm it, someone from the crowd interrupts. A reporter, sensing a story. "Mr. Trump, who is she?" The question hangs in the air, but Trump doesn't answer right away. Instead, he keeps looking at Sarah, waiting for her to speak. The past 3 years flash through her mind, every struggle, every small victory. After that night in the park, she had been placed in a shelter, then connected with a program helping homeless veterans find housing and jobs. It wasn't easy, but she had fought her way back. And now she stood here, face to face with the man who had unknowingly set it all in motion. But not everyone in the room sees it that way. Whispers turn to murmurs, some skeptical, some questioning her story. Was it true? Did this really happen? And why now, after all this time? Sarah can feel the weight of their doubt, the pressure to prove herself. Trump finally breaks the silence. "Tell them," he says, his tone firm but encouraging. "Tell them what happened." Sarah swallows hard. She has waited 3 years for this moment. But now that it's here, she realizes, telling the truth might change everything. Sarah's throat feels dry as she glances around the room. The cameras, the eyes, the waiting expressions, it's overwhelming. She thought she was ready for this, but standing here now, with the weight of her past pressing down on her, doubt creeps in. What if no one believes her? What if this moment, the one she's held onto for years, slips away. Trump watches her closely, his expression unreadable. The same man who once stopped for her in the darkest time of her life is now waiting for her to speak again. But before she can find the words, another voice cuts through the tension. She's lying. The statement comes from somewhere in the crowd, sharp, accusatory. The murmurs grow louder, rippling through the room. Sarah's stomach drops. She knew this could happen, but hearing it out loud stings more than she expected. Where's the proof? Another person asks. Why now? Her hands tremble, but she clenches them into fists, grounding herself. She knows her truth. She lived it. The long nights, the hunger, the hopelessness. And then, the kindness, the opportunity, the moment that changed everything. Trump straightens, his presence commanding the room. I remember that night, he says suddenly, silencing the murmurs. His voice is firm, carrying the weight of certainty. The tension is suffocating now. If he stands by her, everything changes. But if he hesitates, if even for a second, everything she's fought for could crumble in an instant. The room falls into a stunned silence. Trump's words hang in the air, heavy with meaning. He remembers. He's standing by her. But just as relief starts to wash over Sarah, another voice speaks up, this time from someone stepping forward. I was there that night too, the man says, his tone sharp, his expression unreadable. The crowd shifts, eyes darting between him and Sarah. He looks familiar, but she can't place him. And that's not exactly how it happened. Sarah's stomach twists. Who is he? What is he about to say? Trump turns to him, his face steady but curious. Go on. The man hesitates for just a moment before continuing. She wasn't alone that night. There was someone else. Sarah's breath catches. The memories come rushing back. Things she buried deep. Things she thought didn't matter anymore. But now, under the weight of 100 eyes, it's all coming back. The asterisk was someone else. Another veteran. A friend. Someone she lost track of after that night. What happened to them? Someone in the crowd asks. Sarah shakes her head, searching for an answer she doesn't have. I don't know. But the man in front of her does, and as he prepares to reveal the truth, the weight of the past suddenly feels unbearable, because whatever he's about to say, it could change everything. Again. Sarah's breath is shallow as she stares at the man in front of her. The room is dead silent, waiting for what comes next. He takes a slow breath before speaking. The man who was with you that night, he didn't make it. The words hit her like a punch to the chest. Her mind races back to that cold evening, sitting beside him on that park bench. James, his name was James. A fellow veteran, struggling just like she was. They had looked out for each other in the little ways they could, splitting food, keeping watch at night, reminding each other they weren't completely invisible. Sarah swallows hard. What happened? The man hesitates, then says he tried to reach out for help, but it was too late. He passed away a few weeks later. A wave of emotions crashes over her. Grief, guilt, disbelief. She had gotten out. She had survived. But James hadn't. Her voice shakes as she whispers, I didn't know. Trump watches her carefully, his expression unreadable. Then, in a quiet but firm voice, he says, then let's make sure no one else gets left behind. Sarah looks up, eyes burning. The weight of the past still lingers, but something else rises within her, a determination. This isn't just about her anymore. It never was. As the cameras continue to flash, she realizes the real story isn't just about how her life changed that night. It's about what she does with it now. And that, she knows, is just beginning. The weight of everything settles over Sarah, but instead of breaking her, it fuels something inside, a purpose. She looks around the room, at the faces watching, waiting. This moment is bigger than her, bigger than just one act of kindness from 3 years ago. It's about all the others still out there, waiting for their second chance. She takes a deep breath. There are so many like James, she says, her voice steady now. Veterans who fought for this country and were forgotten when they came home. I was almost one of them. But someone stopped, someone cared, and that changed everything. Trump nods, his expression firm. Then let's do more. The energy in the room shifts. What started as a personal moment has turned into something bigger, something that could help others still struggling. Sarah feels it, the shift from past to future. After the event, she steps outside, the cool air grounding her. She thinks about James, about the life she's built since that night. She can't change what happened to him, but she can make sure his story isn't forgotten. As she walks away, she knows this isn't the end of her journey. It's just the beginning of something even greater. Because now she has a voice, and she's going to use it to make sure no one is left behind again.